Hey, it's Tia Carrere, and you're listening to Kino Kingdom with Britt and Rupert. Party on, guys.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in on your wireless, on your FM dial to Kino Kingdom 101. Heading towards, we're already planning episode 200. Yep. Desert Island VHS discs. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the 100th episode. That was a fun one. But of course, it was so fun. We forgot to do any reviews, didn't we? We just talked about Laszlo reading porn magazines on a beach for 2 hours. So this year, this is the sort of catch-up episode where it's just going to be absolutely non-stop reviews of films ranging from middling to mediocre. And nothing but the best here at Kino Kingdom. I am going to start off, because obviously the last episode was our 100th episode. We had a few celebrity messages in, just sort of wishing us well. So I thought I'd just play these. These are messages from, you'll obviously recognize them from the voices, celebrities from
Tia Carrere.
It's not. That would be fantastic though. Oh. Well, we might mention a film with Tia Carrere, but yeah. So this is I'll let you enjoy, and I just want to say thank you to these celebrities. This is the first one, the first of three.
Hey, Britt. This is Gwyneth Paltrow here. Just dropping you a quick line to say that when I'm making candles that look like my tit, it smell like my fanny, I'm always listening to Kino Kingdom. Just so I drop me like, keep up the good work and well done on 100 bloody good episodes, eh?
Oh, so that's really nice.
That's lovely.
I don't think Chris Martin would ever leave Gwyneth Paltrow. She's seems like such a calming influence.
From Burnley.
And here's the second one.
Well, good day, Cobber. This is Nicole Kidman, phoning in from down under. Just thought I'd say a little well done on your lovely little podcast. It's far and away the best one I've ever heard. Anyway, better spring along and put another shrimp on the barbie.
It's weird. You realise that she must be so good with accents in her movies to cover that up.
Yeah.
It's crazy her sort of abilities that she's capable of just completely covering up that quite convincing and thick.
Yeah.
If that's her real voice,
somewhat nasally.
It sort of shines a whole new light on her acting ability, really, if that's what she sounds like in real life.
Yeah, that's the thing is, when Tom Cruise is on top of that, he must have. It must have sounded like he was just like occasionally just shaking like a dying cat's toy, like a squeaky mouse. And the final one this is quite prestigious actually. So I'll let you drink this one in.
Hi, Britt. This is a message from Christopher Nolan just to say that you've got really good.
Oh, hang on. There's a problem with the audio, guys.
Just keep up the good work, and yeah, it's great. Thank you.
Sorry, Chris. If your listeners couldn't catch that because the audio quality was so bad. I don't know if you're using an Alcatel phone or something, mate. But yeah, maybe.
It's because he's making these really small budget indie movies now, isn't it? So.
He's just sending me a voice message then, though. That wasn't like in the cinema or anything.
Oh, okay.
I think I still enjoyed the experience. It was all about the experience.
Yeah, the visual experience is great. There.
I just couldn't hear anything, guys. I don't know if maybe I'm not as sort of versed in these things as you are, but I just couldn't hear anything. But just a huge thank you to Gwyneth Paltrow, Nicole Kidman, and Christopher Nolan for three very different approaches there, but it's good to know their listeners. And I think someone else who may or may not listen to the podcast is Al Pacino and Dan Stevens, who are in an upcoming film called The Ritual, not that one. Which there was a film called Ritual, wasn't there, with Was it Timothy Spall's son, Rafe Spall? And it was really good.
Quite good.
Yeah.
It's like a horror movie, wasn't it?
Do you think
a good monster?
Do you think this will be any better?
I don't think it'll be as good.
Maybe
like Dan Stevens is
maybe wait till you've
capitalised
seen
on
the films before you. Oh well, it made you The Guest was very important.
It was a key movie in my development.
But there's this this is an upcoming horror film starring hang on, it's produced by Andrew Stevens, who used to do Porn. No, it is. It's produced by Andrew Stevens, who used to hang out the back of Shannon Tweed in Body Chemistry 4.
Brilliant.
That is fantastic news. Oh, brilliant. So yes, well, I'm watching that now. When that comes out, because there's a porn mogul behind the scenes. Yeah, directed by David Middell, who is someone I've never heard of, but this is apparently based on I'm using air quotes here, a true exorcism that actually happened for realsies, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not
Another one.
sure. And also, Ben Foster was cast, but he left and was replaced with Dan Stevens, which is a good replacement. But why did Ben Foster leave? Ooh.
Yeah.
Do you think
Ben Foster strikes me as being one of those actors who's probably quite a handful on set? I don't know. Actually, I've got nothing to base that on. I think it's because he's so intense, like in anything he's in. Like you watch like Warcraft, and he's just like a bloody like Shakespearean performance. It's like put on.
Warcraft was a good film, Rupert, as well.
It was a good film.
It wasn't as bad as people made out.
That's correct.
So yeah, that's coming out, and that's in the cinemas on June the 6th. The Ritual, not that one. So if you're searching for it, type in The Ritual, not that one, or The Ritual 2025, not 2016, not that one, to get the clearest responses.
Not one starring Ben Foster.
Yeah. None of which star Ben Foster.
I wonder if people could type that in. Like, I really fancy watching a film where one actor was cast but then replaced by another actor. That's a specific. I'd like to see Netflix get their head around that one. This leads us on to a new part of the show, which I'm warning everyone as you listen. I thought was a great idea, but in practice is incredibly underwhelming. Excellent. So really buckle yourselves up for this one, because we're heading into Kino Car Kingdom. I did put a K on car like Mortal Kombat, but then I realized that the initials really didn't work for me. So I changed it back to a C. So this is Kino Car Kingdom, KCK. And this is something that maybe use it as a future feature. Where maybe the listeners email us at the men who talk at outlook.com, and they let us know their car and the brand and the model, and then I will do my research, find out which films this appeared in, and get like some sort of leaderboard going to see whose car was in the best film. Now, that sounds like, that's a bit off the beaten track and could be quite interesting, but back up, because it's not. Because I asked you both, Laszlo and Rupert, what your cars were and the specific sort of model and year of production, and well, I got the responses, the top 3 responses here. So I don't know if Laszlo, you want to go first and just let everyone what you've got under the bonnet, what baby you're driving, purring round as you drive around looking for dirty magazines in case you wash up on a desert island.
I drive a particularly sexy Ford C-Max from 2010.
Absolute beauty. And of course, that Ford C-Max was in a film called Gates from 2012, a film called En Yeux et Tout from 2012, a film called Inspector Max from 2018, and a TV series called Savashi from 2007 to 2021.
I'm going to have to hunt that down.
I was going to say, so you can watch those if you want to see like a peep of your car in a car park in a brief scene as they sort of whiz past it. Amazing. But you'll notice that none of those films are in the public conscience.
Yeah, it's also in a film that I made that's never seen the light of day. So in that way, it's also available to watch, but for a very select few people.
Yeah.
And Gates is actually a TV series starring Joanna Page, who I think is the one from, what's that show? The one based in Barry.
Oh, Gavin and Stacey.
Is it her? She looks like her.
I don't know. Joanna Page. Who's that?
Yeah, I think that's
Welsh actress.
That's,
yeah, that would. Welsh actress. Yes. Yeah.
So that's the Ford C-Max's claim to fame, is that it was in a TV series, right? So bear that in mind. I wouldn't knock it too much, Rupert, because I don't know if you want to reveal to the listeners what beast you kind of drive around. I understand it's got all the mod cons, power steering, single glazing, and choke.
Yeah, it's a Nissan 1.2 2014.
Of which, of course, we will know from the films it's been in. 2015's Back, 2019's Vivere, and 2018's You Die, Get the App, Then Die. So what we're left to do now is somehow work out which one of those sequence of films is the most impressive. Which car is the sort of celebrity car winner?
So I should mention that mine was a Micra, of course. Let's not forget that. What was the last one called?
So Back is BAKK 2015.
Jesus.
Right, so that's all this. So which? Just two childhood friends drive around Iceland in reverse. Bloody hell! Why? Why wouldn't they just go forwards? Okay, that doesn't. That's some.
You haven't tried out a Nissan Micra.
Vivere from 2019. I think you might lose this one, Rupert. I'm not gonna lie. At least we got Joanna Page. Vivere. Oh, hang on. That's Amanda. Was it? That looks like. Oh no, it's someone who looks like Amanda. What's her face from? She did the whole 9 yards. What was her name? She was very pretty.
Pete.
Yes, thank you, Amanda Pete. Yes, it's weird that you knew that, isn't it, Laszlo? Straight up. Yeah. But yeah, so Vivere, that doesn't count either because it's what is and You Die, Get the App, Then Die. What's that then? You Die, Get the App.
It's a cumbersome title is what it is.
Oh, hang on. So it's also called You Die as well, which is probably a better title.
It's more succinct.
And there's no one in that. Absolutely no one is in that film. So
there's a winner there then.
Yeah. So again, what I thought would be quite fun, and we could talk about various ones. It's just
quite laborious.
Bizarre European comedies and stuff. It's just a laborious. So maybe it'll come back if someone emails, the men who talk at outlook.com. We can always just look at send us like their name and what car you drive, and
please someone drive a Mustang or something.
Please someone drive something that's not some sort of French drama. So yeah, so the winner is the Ford C-Max from 2010 because it was seen in gates with Joanna Page. Oh my god! I hope no one rips off that segment because that was an absolute corker, wasn't it? That was a belter.
And if you've seen a Ford C-Max in any other films, email us and let us know.
It's now, yeah. There's people up there now. They got the jeweler's reading glasses on, where they look at the sort of carat level of a diamond. I don't know if that's the right terminology. Carat level seems a bit strange. Seems like something a farmer would say when he was drunk. But opera goggles, that'll do. Opera goggles, looking at the cars on the TV screen. Just, is that a C-Max? Is that a C-Max or is that a Rover P6? So yes. But I do hope someone sends something in just so I can do that again, because I was scrolling through all these films thinking, oh dear, there's nothing here. So whose car was in the best film? It was Laszlo's Ford C-Max. With that, it's on to the movie reviews. I understand, Laszlo, that you've watched every film ever released.
Yeah, since at least the 80s.
So I don't know if you want to kick us off.
Oh my god, I don't know where to begin. Some of these I've watched so long ago that
I had that problem as well. Yeah.
I'll go back to the furthest one back, which is Running Scared by Peter Hyams of many actual quality films from the 80s and 90s fame, starring Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines. I don't know who Gregory Hines is. He was like billed above Billy Crystal, so I'm guessing he was a big deal in the 80s, probably as a comedian. But anyway, this is kind of an action buddy cop thing, about as generic a buddy cop film as you can get, I would say. But it's got some famous faces like Joe Pantoliano and Dan Hedaya and Jimmy Smits in it as well. And this is very good fun. It's like a fast-paced cop buddy thriller with paper thin plot and snappy dialogue, but it basically coasts on the charm of Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines' kind of buddy relationship. Feels like they're making up a lot of their lines as they're going along. And there's like a whole 10-minute sequence where they go to Florida and they mess about fishing, sunbathing, and shagging girls, and it has next to nothing to do with the plot. So I don't know how they pulled that, but yeah, I would say it's worth a watch. Have either of you seen this?
No, it's one of those films that's been in my consciousness for a very long time, because it was always it was on one of the shelves in the video shop that was on the edge, and I always looked at it. But then it's bizarre because I've loved buddy cop films, but I've never watched it. I think it's because I'm a little bit kind of averse to Billy Crystal, so I just think, I'm probably not going to watch that because it looks like it would just be irritating. But it's good to know. Jesus Christ, I'm looking at. Go to Billy Crystal's Wikipedia page, right?
Okay.
Right, and then scroll down to the section that says career, 1976 to 1985, and look at his collar. That is a collar. That is.
Oh, yeah.
Fair play to him. So yeah, sorry, yeah.
Fucking Titanic iceberg. Jesus Christ, what is happening there?
His collar's happening. Listen, Mum, I want that one.
It goes to his armpit.
Yeah, I haven't got my readers on, my bifocals. The product in his hair, is it mousse? Is it gel? Oh no, it's absolutely wispy nothing, isn't it? It just looks like a spray painted cloud on his bond. It's brilliant.
In Running Scared, he's kind of playing it's quite an action role for him, which is quite funny. He's sort of running around and shooting people, and he's kind of meant to be a bit sexy in it, I think. It's quite an entertaining. Does he pull it off? You'll have to wait and see. But there's some really good, like Peter Hyams is a pretty solid director. There was a car chase in this that like genuinely had me chuckling, just because it was so ludicrous. Like it starts off where they're trying to track somebody outside the entrance to an airport, and then that person spots him, Jimmy Smits, and he tears off. So they follow him. So they've gone from the entrance of an airport, and then it just cuts them on the runway, and they're just like weaving around airplanes taking off. And I was thinking, how did they get onto the runway? It doesn't matter. And then the next minute, then they're on a freeway, and then they're in the middle of Chicago, weaving around cars, and then they end up on a train track, and then they drive up onto an elevated train track. So like the cars are just going dog, 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 over like the wooden slats of the train track.
Is it done as like a sort of spoof thing? Because that you wouldn't be able to get your car in those positions, or if you did, the car chase would be like hours long. That's
the thing. It's like they're talking like cut them off here, as if this is happening in the space of real what you're time, seeing on screen. Yeah. But you're like, they have travelled miles and miles and miles, like weaving around. They must be getting bored of this car chase. But when they're actually up on the elevated train tracks, it's real. Like they've done it for a real stunt, which I guess you never would do nowadays. So it was genuinely kind of impressive that they let them do it in downtown Chicago. So that scene alone was a good one, but it doesn't have to dribble on. There's a scene towards the end. They have to find the bad guy's got away again, and their method of finding him is driving around like slum districts and in a posh car that used to belong to him, to see who reacts and like says, hey, I know whose car that is, and that person might lead them to telling them where he is. And you're like, and then and of course they don't just drive around and then it works. Like they have then sequences of them getting out of the car and playing basketball with people and then driving off again, and you're like, just like, there must have been a better way of writing this than what you've got.
It reminds me of that film I watched, that really tedious sort of neo-noir film with John Travolta, where it dawned on me halfway through the film that every single scene was like saxophone solo, John Travolta pulling up somewhere, getting out of his Cadillac, people telling him to go away and then smoking fags as he drove off. And I thought, this is about 15 times this has happened. Like, it just keeps looping. And it's like, people smoking in fags doth not, a noir film make. So yeah, just tickling me. I think I will watch this. This was one that it was it on Amazon Prime?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pushing it towards me, and I thought, yeah, I do fancy that actually.
He knows you so well.
Yeah.
I knew that Peter Hyams directed Capricorn 1, which is good, and Outland, which is great. Like,
and he did your favorite, the
2010,
2010, sorry, sequel.
Sequel, yeah. And which was all right. But I didn't realize he did. Well, I didn't remember he did Time Cop and Sudden Death and End of Days.
Sudden Death, yeah.
I got that on Laserdisc. Genuinely got Sudden Death and Laserdisc and Maximum Risk. Is Maximum Risk another Peter Hyams one?
No.
Yeah. No. That was
Stephen.
It's a Hong Kong.
Was it Stephen King one? What was the Stephen King one? Maximum
Risk.
Was it
Definitely
Maximum?
not Maximum
Oh wait, there.
Risk.
No, you're talking about bloody hell,
Another one? The one he directed.
Maximum Overdrive.
That's it. Wow. I've still never seen that. That's got to be a Laserdisc special.
By the way, a bit of a throwback. I don't know if you'll remember this, but this was before Laszlo joined us on our movie Odyssey. Do you remember? You remember that I really like not Secret Window, The Ninth Gate, right? And I mentioned it while we were on the podcast doing 100th episode. I reminded myself how much I like The Ninth Gate, and how it's based on the Club Dumas, this book. By I think it's a French author, and I bought it. I went online as we were talking. I bought it, and the last time I did this was about 3 years ago, when we were also mentioning the Ninth Gate. And I bought a book, and it was the right book, but in the wrong language, and it turned up, and it was all in Portuguese. I don't know if that rings a bell.
Yeah, that does ring a bell. Yes.
Well, I've got to start buying stuff quickly online, because this book has turned up, and it's not the Club Dumas, it's the Dumas Club, and it's a book about the Three Musketeers.
Wow.
So I've now bought the wrong book twice. So you managed. What I talked about was the ninth configuration. You, with a lot of ninths in this show, you bought the Blu-ray probably from Germany, and it turned up like the next perfect. I can't do that. I can't seem to make purchases. I buy the wrong thing. So yeah, I will now have 3 copies of very similarly titled books. But Spider-World did turn up. I've got that here as well. Roops, I'll be watching that. But
I got that bad boy.
Yeah, so sorry. So Run Scared, Stone Cold, Buddy Cop classic, better than Lethal Weapon. Everyone watching it on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, definitely worth a watch.
Rupert, do you want to have a crack next, and I'll jump in after you?
Yeah, why not? I'm going to bring us bang up to date, because me and Laszlo saw this together at the cinema. Sinners.
Yay. We left the house.
I know, right? It was our annual sojourn. This is a film by Ryan Coogler, who made Fruitvale Station and Black Panther and Creed, and possibly its sequels, I guess. And it is set in 1930s Mississippi in a black community, and there's these twins called Smoke and Stack, both played by Michael B. Jordan.
Have they got a sister called Lightning by any chance?
No.
Oh,
They returned to the town to open this Duke joint, which is a rural nightclub basically, and it's opening night. So the first hour is them like gathering musical artists from the community and bumping into old friends and lovers and enemies. And then there's the nightclub section, which is all very joyful and includes a wonderful sequence where there's this kind of magical musical medley, which leads us through like blues, rock and roll, all the way up to rap. And then the vampires turn up, and then all the characters you've learned to care about start getting murdered, really. And I really like this movie. It's quite a thoughtful and original twist on the one night, one location template. It looks amazing, shot in IMAX. It's got a fantastic soundtrack and score, which mashes up musical styles in a very original way. It's got good performances and good characterization. And it's quite patient. I'd say it's quite slow burning, and then it like suddenly accelerates in the final act. And it has a satisfying ending. So I would say after Nosferatu, this is the second great vampire movie this year. What did you think, Laszlo?
I agree. And yeah, it takes its time, doesn't it? Because there's almost, I would say, at least the first hour is just gathering people to go to the thing, to the club, and then there's a good chunk of time where they're just kind of enjoying the night and they're building the tension that these vampires are kind of circling. And it feels, when we talk about vampires, that sounds very random, and it's not as random as like From Dusk Till Dawn, which this does have some similarities to, in that it's kind of explained that this music artist there, his music has power, which for good and bad, and people are drawn to him. So like the vampires are drawn to him because they kind of want his music, kind of thing, for their own nefarious ends. So it kind of makes sense, even though it feels, it is quite From Dusk Till Dawny.
What instrument does he play? Is it slide guitar?
Yes.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I thought it would be slide guitar. It has that kind. I can imagine they would tie in that kind of emotional power with like some really Raikoudery slide stuff. Yeah. I will watch that.
The music in this is, it's properly like dirty, bluesy stuff. It's great. And that sequence that Rupert's talking about, they literally have musicians from different time periods appear in the room as sort of their kind of spirits. So there's like a guy in glam rock gear, which sounds like it shouldn't work, but it weirdly does.
It's very cool.
Yeah, it's great.
It sounds like a film that has sprouted from like because like you say, it sounds like it shouldn't work, but it does, like a specific vision. Which is quite
very
nice.
much, yes. It's like, I think Ryan Coogler was given a lot of money to make this movie, and I'm glad it's paid off, because apparently it's doing very well.
Nice.
At the cinema, because it's like $90 million or something, which is a lot for a horror movie, especially just like such a long and weird one.
What production company is behind
an original idea?
I don't know.
It's Warner Brothers.
It's Warner Brothers.
Yes.
It's their second hit of the year, which they desperately needed.
Oh, so they send us all the shit, and then when a good one comes out, they don't send it to us. Oh, good. I'm glad I watched DC Life of Pets or whatever it was. Yes, so that's cool. I noticed as well that Jack O'Connell is in this, who is a man who doesn't mess around.
He's pretty intense. He's good in this. I liked his performance because he's like the leader of the vampires, and he has this like aura about him where just like, even if like what he's saying is completely benign or innocuous, he's just like such an air of menace and like sinister, just such a sinister aura around him. It's quite creepy.
He's always like got kind of a satisfied smile on his face, because he kind of knows what he wants and what he's going to do. That any resistance he meets is just kind of amusing, because he knows that he could fuck him up. Yeah, it's very good. And this a couple of little interesting tidbits I learned about this film was apparently they did like a script reading for it as part of a bidding process. They did like a live reading to studio heads to ignite a bidding war, basically, and that's like part of the reason how we got so much money for it. Is that they got them all fighting over it by doing like a live reading with, I guess, with Michael B. Jordan doing it, but which is quite cool. And it also had one of the lowest drop-offs in box office from week to week.
Yeah, I heard this.
First, like a 6% drop, which normally, especially for a horror film, you'd be looking at 60%. So,
really?
It's got legs. Yeah.
The only thing I drop is my trousers, mate. So, I'm going to watch that. I think that, to be honest, as a back-to-back with Nosferatu is quite good. Could I move on? I can tie in something to this. Can I move on to my film?
Sure.
I think one of you has seen this, The Last Voyage of the Demeter.
We've both seen this, I think.
I've not seen this.
Oh.
I mean,
take it back.
It keeps getting pushed on me, but I keep hearing shit. So
Whoa, okay, calm down, mate. It's not. It wasn't sent to us from Warner Brothers. So this is I'll sort of chat and then see what Laszlo thinks. But this is this kind of interested me because it's based on Dracula's voyage, across the sea before he gets to London, and then shoves his fingers in Mina Harker's mouth. And I thought, well, that's kind of. I've read the Dracula book, and it is brisk and it is brief, and I thought, yeah, that's kind of just completely skimmed over. It's just like, yeah, he just basically sucked off the entire crew and then rocked up in Kent or wherever he turned up. Dover, probably, wasn't it? But yeah, I watched this, and it's got a surprising budget behind it, because when it came on, I thought it was going to be a cheap horror film. It kicks off actually with, it starts off with this sort of tattered ship just bashing it on some rocks, and this sort of constabulary turn up, and they find this like diary, and he's reading it saying, oh my god, what happened on this voyage? And the guy who's reading this book, right, it's quill ink, so it's leaking, and he's holding it in the rain, and the rain is dripping off his sort of Bobby's helmet onto it, and it's streaming down the page. And I thought, you wouldn't be able to read that, mate. And what I would do is get out of the rain, because you're ruining the book, aren't you? So that tickled me at the start. But then the whole film then is effectively them. It starts off when they leave in sort of Romania, and then it's just purely the voyage, and they start to get picked off on the voyage. You're in it, Rupert. Liam Cunningham's in it, so you get to see what you'd look like in about 20 years. And our boy David Dasmalkian as well in there from that Late Night with the Devil, which was a bit of a winner for me this year. What I thought about this film was, I realised that it ties in with an enjoyment I've got of horror films set in one place, and because they're just on a boat getting picked off, I found that as my interest in the film dwindled, I was really taken by just the practicalities of the voyage and the sort of set design of the boat, and just how miserable life on a boat like that would be, like just a cargo boat going across. It does make me think, though, that. Well, before I say that, I'll see what Laszlo thinks. I thought it was like a completely throwaway horror, but I really enjoyed the set design, and I enjoyed the setting of it more than anything, really.
Yeah, exactly the same thoughts here. I only wrote down a couple of things just because I thought it looked really nice. I really like the setting in terms of period and on a ship. I like the idea of it. But ultimately, it was just a very serviceable horror film that wasn't scary at any point. No, and like you say, I started to really think about how can they not spot this fucking monster? Like when they're just on a deck. There's nothing else there.
It's quite a small boat.
Although when they're inside it, the interior kind of storage space is fucking huge. It's like a warehouse. And then we're up on deck. You go, this boat is now a fraction of the size.
What got me, and this isn't spot. I mean, everyone knows the story of Dracula. It's like, it's not going to have a happy ending, because he does get to London and he does go to Madame Tussauds on holiday. But what got me was they were on the boat, right? So Rupert, right? Forget that we're talking about this film. Right. If me, you, and Laszlo were on a boat, right, and we knew there was something on the boat that was killing all of the livestock, drinking its blood, slashing it to ribbons, and was hunting down members of the crew, I'm guessing what you wouldn't do is all meet up in the galley and say, right, let's all go our separate ways and go to bed. And that happens not just once in this film, every night. It's set over like a week or two, and they don't ever just say, let's all get in one room, right, in a circle,
with some
swords. With some swords, and take it in turns to sleep. They just seem to like, something's hacking the crew down, and we haven't got any food. We're down to the sports biscuits and the custard creams, and the fig rolls and the gravy browning and the poppadoms. We haven't got a microwave to put them in. So it that all that, and then they just seem to like go their own way every evening, and then one of them will get picked off, and you're like, what? It's a boat. Just stay together. It was ridiculous, and it really doesn't hold up.
It's the equivalent of that movie where Ashley Judd keeps drinking the wine every night.
Yeah, the poisoned wine, which is an open bottle of red wine she leaves on the table, which would be bonky after what, in LA heat, after what, like a few hours, and she's still clocking back bonky wine. Yeah, and that's the scene in that film as well. I think it's called not Murder by Numbers. That's the one with Sandra Bullock. That's the one where she wakes up and Andy Garcia is watching her having like a really drugged sleep, where she's like mumbling in her sleep and just smoking fags and watching her just to make himself look like he could be the culprit. And he leaves. She wakes up and he's like, "What are you doing here?" And he just leaves. And it doesn't fit into the plot other than to throw another suspect in.
Wow.
It's ridiculous. His character, he's like the kind of white knight in it. You're like, don't do that. I hate shit like that. But yeah, so The Last Voyage of the Demeter is kind of an absolutely serviceable is a good word, kind of vampire film with nice set design. But you will find yourself just looking at it as opposed to just taking it in.
Yeah, I really in Nosferatu, when we get to the boat bit in that, I really wanted it to let loose. Like I almost like want to borrow bits from this film and just drop it into the middle of Nosferatu, just so you can have him like ripping a few people to shreds. Like Nosferatu actively avoided the sort of fun schlock horror that I enjoy, and this leans a bit more into that. But anyway, yeah, it's still.
Do you think you could edit in those scenes?
Probably could.
Just to jazz up the middle section of Nosferatu.
Yeah, just improve Nosferatu, and I'll send it to.
Definitely be much better.
I've improved your film. Yeah, I'm sure you're fine with that.
So The Last Voyage of the Demeter, a solid 5 out of 10.
Brilliant.
Laszlo,
for what is probably quite a low budget. In fairness, it did look nice.
yeah, I wasn't bored, but like I wasn't bored just because I was so taken by the setting and Liam Cunningham. Yeah, I've always wondered what to. I know now what to lust after in 20 years when I'm dealing with Rupert. I need Liam to tell me my lusts.
Yeah.
Is it your turn?
It's Laszlo. It's Laszlo's time to shine.
I'm just looking at, because the list is quite long. There's some here that I can probably just skip over.
No. Give them 2-minute trashings. It's fine. We can't.
You can do it. Your medley of TMTs.
Okay. Well, one of these is a trashing. Oh no, is it? I enjoyed it. And then another one is a wholehearted recommendation. But I'm not going to talk about it. I've got to say,
just for new listeners as well, that when we say 2-minute trashing, it's not really a trashing. It's just like getting over it, because there's like, it's either good or bad. There's not much to say about it, so we just call them TMTs.
Yeah. Okay. I watched for TMT. I watched Warriors of Future. That's the actual title, not Warriors of the Future. Warriors of Future.
What is it like? Is it someone called like Billy Future and he runs the regiment or something?
No. It's just I think it's genuinely a bad translation. This is like I think it's a Hong Kong sci-fi action movie on Netflix, which they must have spent a fortune on, because every shot is a VFX shot, a really detailed. It's like in a post-apocalyptic future world where they've built a dome around cities to keep the toxic air out or something. And then an alien meteor has landed, which contains like a plant that sprouts out, and it creates oxygen, but it destroys people at the same time. So they're torn over what to do with it. Can they turn this into the thing that saves the world, or is it going to destroy the world? And it's an excuse for a bunch of guys to then run around in mech suits with big machine guns, spouting ridiculous dialogue. Like they talk about flying around in skyfish and stuff like that. And I'm like, again, is that a bad translation, or do they actually call these things skyfish? I don't know. But it's a non-stop. If you like computer gamey mech suit action, then this is definitely worth watching.
Is it sort of slow and cumbersome, or really slick and fast mech action? Because it's
really slick. Like it's fast. There's like car chases with armored vehicles being chased by stomping mech suit things, and aliens and hover ships, and they're all kind of tearing around in a post-apocalyptic world, and it's all action, but it is hilariously like ropey in other places. Like the bad guy, I remember, he's from the beginning, that he's introduced. He sort of spins around in his chair and frowns at the heroes, and he looks like Blofeld or something. And you go, oh, okay, he's the bad guy. But then it pretends that you don't know that he's, because all the time their systems are failing and they don't know why, and they can't communicate with base, and you're like, I think maybe he's involved. And then about an hour and 20 minutes in, they reveal that he's the bad guy, and then there's a whole series of flashbacks showing you how he's done things, and you're like, yeah, like that was obvious the first second we met him that he was the bad guy. But anyway, it indulges all these stupid flashbacks, which makes it sound like I didn't enjoy this film, but I really did. It's a very stupid, schlocky action nonsense. So yeah, watch it if you want to switch your brain off for 2 hours.
It does sound really good, actually.
Its title does not sound good.
This is I noticed that this is something, right, and it's obviously to do with the financing, but when I'm watching a film that I've got, you sometimes you just take a sort of punt on something you see on Prime or whatever, and then it starts to come up and you realize that the production companies behind it are getting into the double digits before the film started, and you think, hang on now, has everyone put like 15 quid towards this? What am I watching? But this has got 12 production companies behind it. Mm-hmm. And is that something that you both think when you're watching it, and it's like, and they're rolling through them, there's usually 2 or 3, and then it's more and more.
It just keeps coming. I mean, I'm so glad now you can kind of skip forward 10, 15 seconds.
But not so much. But I find it a warning sign. Like, why wouldn't one person or one company just fund this? Why is it all?
Because they didn't do a live reading of the script, clearly.
Yeah. or the title.
Imagine if they did a live reading of the Warriors of Future script.
Did you?
Well, you wouldn't get past the title without someone going, hang on.
I think there's a connecting word missing there. Yeah, what's the film called? Warriors of Future? Oh, you cut out for a second there, John. You've got to say that.
No, I'm in the same.
I wrote down a couple of other things. That, like, they also refer to this plant thing.
Sorry, go on.
That's right. They refer to this plant thing all the time as a pistil. And I was listening going, is that a bad translation again? Why do they keep calling this fucking plant a pistil? And I Googled it, and it is a part of a plant. But again, like, no one watching it knows that. So don't call it a pistil, because you're just going, what are you talking about pistils for? It's a giant plant from space. Anyway, and there was a bit also when I've written down where the bad guy, in the mission briefing where the whole fate of the world is at stake, they asked this expert, how long will it take for Pandora to react to the bomb? And his answer was, it may take some time, or it may be immediate. And you think, well, that's helpful.
Yeah.
So
covering
you don't.
All bases there.
Does the actor then say, "Oh, we're going to need a little bit more than that"? Maybe some specifics.
Nope. Go ahead, guys. You know what you're doing.
Did you? Was it subtitled or dubbed when you watched this?
I watched it dubbed. I was like, I can't bother to read this film. You need to be able to watch. You're there to watch the robots shooting at each other.
Yeah.
Maybe the subtitles are perfect.
This was released in 2022, and it says it was the #1 highest grossing Chinese film in Hong Kong. Then it was broken less than a year later by A Guilty Conscience, which looks like it's a full-on drama. So where did you watch this, Laszlo?
This is on Netflix. Surprise, surprise.
That is tempting. This is one of those films that my time is so precious these days, and I don't know if I could squeeze this one past Faye, to be honest. But yeah, food's ready, darling. I've cracked open the bottle of wine. Now let's watch a really awkward Chinese action film that's really unconvincing for a couple of hours, or rather for 99 minutes. But yeah, this is definitely on my radar now.
Yeah. Shall I trash the other one, which isn't trash?
Yes. Please do.
So the other one this is a very good film, but you don't. I went in knowing nothing about it, actively avoiding trailers. I just went in on a recommendation, and so this is Strange Darling, which is directed by J.T. Molnar, who's only done one other film, and it looks pretty cheap and nasty, but this was very good. So it's got Willa Fitzgerald and Kyle Gollner. I'm not familiar with his work, but as the lady and the demon, respectively. And it's a very Tarantino-y feeling thing where it's split into 5 chapters, but mercifully, I usually hate these chapter things because
I've seen Bad Times at the El Grande as well, or whatever that was called, that awful film.
And you're like, oh my God. So, you know, when a chapter thing comes up and you're thinking, I'm hoping this is wrapping up. And then you go, right, well, and now I know I'm in for another at least half an hour. It might be another chapter after that. These are like 10-minute chapters. So it's like really nippy. And they're told out of order. So it starts off with the lady being hounded across country she's in a sort of a Mustang or something, and then this guy is in a great big SUV chasing her, trying to shoot her off the road. And that's sort of chapter 4, and then we jump back to chapter sort of 2, and then you find out how they got to that scenario, and then it goes to 1, and you get to how they meet and various things. And it's very twisty, all kind of chasing and or weird scenes that make you just don't know where it's going. It's really good fun. And there's been some like slightly tedious criticism. I recommend not reading anything about it and just watching it, enjoying the ride. There has been some backlash against this about its gender politics, but I feel like there are people expecting maybe more substance from it than there actually is. And I just watched it with the missus on a surface level, and we both really enjoyed the hell out of it. So,
nice.
So they go in blind and enjoy.
Okay. And where did you watch this?
I did rent this, so I don't think it's on any streamers for free.
You paid cash money. Well, that's fine, and I guess that's kind of the perfect TMT because you don't want to know any more about it. What I do want to say is that Ed Begley Jr. is in it, and he really tickled me in that film with reviewed a couple of months ago with Faye Dunaway and that 80s film with Roseanne Barr in, where everyone was just lusting after Ed Begley Jr. Brilliant. Yeah, so that's saucy. Okay, yeah, I'm making a list of films to watch because this will hopefully cut through me sitting down when I have time to watch a film and wondering what to put on. So yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, cool. Rupert, over to you.
This will be quick as well. I watched another film at the cinema, Snow White, and
wow. One of us. This is a movie podcast. One of us has got to do it.
It's
whose idea was this? Your son or your wife's? Or
son.
Both?
He wanted to see the Evil Queen. I'm like, I want to see the Evil Queen too. So yeah, I went there, and it's obviously a remake of the Disney film from 1937. I can't say I remember much about the original to make any kind of comparison, but I do remember it not being total shit. So there is that. So this one, it has a princess. She escapes assassination by her stepmother, the Evil Queen, played by Gal Gadot, and she joins like 7 dwarves, and she also joins up with a bandit named Jonathan, of course, to reclaim her kingdom. And the bandit, has like 7 bandit friends too. So it feels quite possible that at some point they weren't actually going to have dwarves at all in this movie, and they were added later because they are all CG, which of course is completely unsatisfying to everyone, and they just look creepy. The dwarves do actually have the best song and dance number, I would say, although it's just basically made on a laptop, isn't it? So the whole movie is really ugly and amateurish looking, considering it cost the best part of $300 million.
Jesus Christ.
But yeah, the problem really is that, of course, it's a ridiculously thin plot, and it's just papered over with these forgettable songs, and which you could kind of get away with when the movie was like half an hour shorter than this, but this does not get away with it, and it's just really, really tame. It's basically just drama and peril free, which makes it unbelievably boring. Rachel Zegler can sing, but she can't act. Gal Gadot can't sing and she can't act. So it's a real doozy of a pairing there. And it's a deserved failure. Without any of the off-screen controversy, I'm glad it's failed because it's awful.
It is. I mean, it's not because humorously, I typed in Snow White into Google. I was scrolling down as you were chatting then because I hate listening to you, and it comes down to the review section and the audience rating summary on Google, and it's like there's a couple of 2s, 3s, and 4 stars, a few 5 stars, and then an incredible amount of 1-star reviews. And the first comment is a man who was obviously so vitriolic that he didn't even know what film he was reviewing. So this is a review of Snow White. Absolutely unforgettable. From the very first frame, a Minecraft movie had me completely captivated. As someone who's loved the game for years, I walked in with high expectations, but what I witnessed exceeded them. And then he goes on to give Snow White 1 out of 5. I don't think he knows how the world works, because not only has he written something positive, given it the lowest possible review, but on the wrong film. Don't worry about that. Brilliant. So was it just, were you watching it just thinking there's nothing here? What makes it so hateful though? Why is it why is it so bad?
Because, well, I mean, so much money has been thrown at such piffle. I don't know. It's like it looks horrible. It looks so tacky and plastic and not in a charming kind of retro sets kind of way. It just looks so CG-ish at all times. It plays everything so safe, and it's got such a generic it's just such a generic plot, and it's so weirdly structured because it has some plotting at the start, then nothing for about an hour, and then they return to the plot at the end. It's so odd. Most of the middle section, honestly, it's just her dancing around with dwarves and to terrible songs, and then flirting unconvincingly with this guy with whom she has zero chemistry, and it's just so there's just so little drama or peril in it. It's just so boring. And the dwarves just look hideous.
I don't know if she's got a problem with the diet, because I'm just looking at the soundtrack CD here, and I'm looking at the titles of the songs, and they, my arse is playing up, my guts are dancing, I wouldn't eat that, what's that smell? Yeah, it just seems like a strange soundtrack CD, to be honest. I'm probably. This is one. You and I both have young children. Was your son at least entertained, or was he just no? Oh, that's the killer, then, isn't it? No. If both adults, you and your wife, are like, "Wow, this is bad," and the kid is has no interest, then that's there's no hope there.
It's too. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know. It's going to sound sexist, but maybe a little girl might have more interest in it, because it's so saccharine and whimsical. I like my whimsical fantasy, but wow,
whimsy is a word that crops up.
Yeah, but this is full on just sugar rush bullshit, but not even sugar rush in a kind of exciting, Minecrafty kind of way. It's old fashioned whimsy, but with a boring new twist.
I don't know. When I see these and it says it's, just looking at this and it says it's one of Disney's most expensive films, I just wonder where the money goes with stuff like this.
I really, you watch this and then you really wonder where it goes.
Yeah.
There were rumors, and I think you may know if these ring true when you watch it, that because there were early leaked photos of her with a troop of people who I think are the bandits in the film, and everyone was jumping on it saying these are the dwarves, and they're all sort of mixed gender and race dwarves, and everyone got into a tiz over what's the word for
DEI casting kind of thing.
Yeah, that sort of thing. And then I think it's been proven now that wasn't what was going on, that the dwarves were then a separate thing and they were CG and so on.
Right. Well,
But
it did make me want.
There's rumours still swirling that wasn't what it is, and those were the dwarves, and then they reshot and added the dwarves and has made them separate characters and all sorts of things. But is that even possible?
It's plausible. It's entirely plausible, because watching the movie, of course, you get this band of like bandits, sort of like Robin Hood type squad in the woods, and they're like. It's quite possible that they originally conceived it as just not having dwarves in it at all, because of course there's no dwarves in the title, and you've got this. There are about 7 of them, pretty sure, and I think that was probably the original plan, was to just have like these bandits in the woods, and then I don't know what point they decided to add the dwarves, but you could kind of almost see, like, they're so unrelated. They've got nothing to do with each other. They're just 2 completely separate groups of friends that Snow White meets, and that's it. Like, there's not really any relevance to the dwarves being there at all. So, and they are all CG, so it would be something they could very much add in post.
Yeah. So
it
maybe
does sound like that,
yeah. It's not, there's not a track record for this stuff. Like, there's Sonic the Hedgehog debacle where they released the trailer and the reaction was so negative they scurried off and redid it.
Yep.
And it would explain how this thing could cost $300 million, but who knows? Who knows? It's fun to speculate.
Exclusive.
Well, I watched a film that I didn't expect to watch, and that was High Spirits, a 1998 fantasy comedy film starring Peter O'Toole. Have either of you seen this?
I don't think so.
This is a film that it was one of those wonderful moments where I sat down with Faye, got the wine ready, said, you choose a film, came back from my pre-movie pee, and she said, can we watch High Spirits from 1988? I thought, what? And neither of us had heard of it. And I kind of love that. And I said, right, let's just do it. We're kind of running off like sort of 80s, 90s films like Hook and things like that at the moment. So we chucked it on, and it's a surprisingly funny and really like positive sort of ghost comedy from the 80s that I just literally never heard of. It's directed by Neil Jordan, who has made amazing films. Like the Crying Game, Interview with the Vampire, and in a key moment, The Good Thief, one of my favorite films, Nick Nolte from 2002.
And of course, The Company of Wolves, werewolf movie.
Yeah, so a total pro. But I've never heard of this, and it starts off with Peter O'Toole, and it's a really stagey film. Like the castle it's set in, of course it's set in a castle, is really sort of setty and stagey in a really lovely way. And the film starts off, and it's this dilapidated castle where everything's just leaking and broken. And you just hear Peter O'Toole with this sort of really like rambunctious sort of dramatic voice on a phone call, clearly trying to get. He's coming across as like it's a really clever thing. As the camera's swooping towards through this castle, he's talking like he's a really charming, positive salesman, but then it becomes clear very quickly that he actually is just trying to put off paying bills because he hasn't got any money. And he's like, yeah, of course, yeah. And then at the end of it, he says, oh, so you can only hear one side of the conversation. He's like, oh, yeah, so gotta pay tomorrow. You'll take my home. Yeah, okay, bye then. And he puts the phone down, and he's beaming, and he like clocks his whiskey back. He's got this ridiculous cardigan on, and he's like whistling to himself, and he just starts climbing up a stool and getting into a noose, and he's really jovial. So he was off to a good start anyway. And then his mother comes in, and she's like, "Oh, you're not doing that again, are you?" And he's like, "Oh no, I wasn't gonna do anything." And he's like constantly really drunk and sort of sailing around this castle, this huge set, and he just gathers the staff and just says, "Oh look, we can't pay anything. We've got no finance anymore. My family's money's run out. There's nothing we can do." And they come up with this idea of just saying it's basically this haunted Irish castle and getting in a load of tourists. So a busload of tourists turn up, like Steve Guttenberg, Beverly D'Angelo, a load of people, and they turn up, and they've just got all these. It's just falsified, like a bed that spins and all this sort of thing. And the whole film is then basically him trying to. For the first half, it's it's a really bizarre setup because for the first half of the film, it's Peter O'Toole and this sort of ragtag bunch of well-meaning people just trying to get enough money to keep the castle functional and fixed. And then the second half of the film is this really bizarre, romantic, like love comedy where they've turned out there are two ghosts played by obviously Liam Neeson and Daryl Hannah, and it's like each member of the sort of Steve Guttenberg is falling in love with Daryl Hannah, while Beverly D'Angelo is falling in love with Liam Neeson, like in the backdrop of all this sort of zaniness. And it works really. It gets a bit slow, obviously, and plodding and cheesy with the love stuff, but the film is so sort of well-meaning and funny that it sort of doesn't matter. You just sort of gloss over the sort of tedious parts. There's a bit in this film where I think his name is, I want to say, Peter Gallagher. He's like a vicar, and he's sitting by a window, and he's reading the Bible, and he's got the window open, and there's a woman, an Irish woman dressed up as like a fake banshee to try and get across the point the castle's haunted, and she's going past his window on like a cable and sort of going ah, and she goes past the first time, and he like looks out after she's gone, so he's like, oh, I don't know what that was, and then she goes past again and does it, and he's like, he's looking at something on his table, and she sort of says, as she's going right past the window so he could clearly hear, she sort of says, oh, what's he looking at now? And then she comes past again, and he's gone for a pee, and she's like, where's he gone now? And then she comes past again, and she just shouts at him, and she just shouts, look at me, you stupid bastard. And and then he looks again after she's gone, and I thought, if I was being haunted by a ghost and it shouted, look at me, you stupid bastard, I'd be weak. And it's just stuff like that. And it's a weird sort of, what's the word when everything's over, like a melodramatic sort of comedic sensibility to it, where it's like everyone's just a bit pissed and the camera's just like following them around this castle. And I find it really in really good, high spirits, really, I suppose, as the title suggests. But there's a bit where, I'm not going to tell you all the different bits, it's just there's lots of bits that just tickled me because they were just so on the nose. So yeah, it's Jennifer Tilly's in it as well, whispering with a cracked voice, obviously. So yeah, it just it's not like the best 80s comedy I've ever seen, but what a film to just come out of the woodwork and be enjoyed.
I have heard of this. I definitely have heard of it. Yeah, but I think I always mistook it or mixed it up with Haunted Honeymoon, the Gene Wilder one, because it's quite a similar plot, which I quite like as well. And I got slaughtered at the time.
Yeah, it's silly. It's really silly, but I thought it would just be painfully 80s and cheesy, but it really does. It kind of makes you just smile, you know. So I really, really enjoyed that.
It sounds quite old-fashioned.
It's very old-fashioned, yeah.
Which like I'm thinking about it is almost like, I suppose, with stuff like Haunted Honeymoon as well, and what was the one with Money Pit, things like that. There was a little spate of screwball comedies in the 80s, wasn't there? Which I suppose were kind of like nostalgia films, like harking back, like we hark back to the 80s now. It's like harking back to the 50s, I guess.
Yeah, it does feel like if this was made in the 70s, it wouldn't have shocked me. Yeah. But yeah, it was good fun. I really enjoyed it. High Spirits, and that was on Prime.
This reminded me of
High Spirits.
No. It's reminded me. I recently watched Death Becomes Her again, and that's a good movie. Maybe in a similar wheelhouse, but
yes.
What a bizarre film that is. I'd forgotten how like oddly listic, like the plot is just sort of ambles around. It's never apparent where it's going at any point. And then Bruce Willis ends up kind of being like the tragic hero of the story, and you think, no, he's a terrible person.
He's awful. He's
so
awful.
Bizarre.
I don't know if I reviewed this because this was one of those films where I paid cash money for it. We watched about 2/3 of it, and then by the time we went to watch it, my 48 hours had run out, and I didn't want to pay again, so I couldn't cover it. But that's the film, isn't it? Where is it like Liza Minnelli, whatever, offers him eternal life, and he says, "What if I get bored?" Like that's his first response. It's he's so manic in that film as well.
Good comic actor.
Yes,
That's it. Back when he took his chances with these things a little bit more.
I wonder. I often wonder if I should watch Moonlighting. I've never seen it. I don't know if it's worth it.
This is a Savalas, so you'd be making an exception.
I know. I've got to say that I am at the moment. Obviously, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to, ruin my mystique. But I am, in a very sort of staccato way, making my way through the What We Do in the Shadows on the Savalas. That's our sort of go-to 30-minute at the moment. I am enjoying it.
Speaking of 80s TV shows, they're doing another movie version of Miami Vice.
Oh, yeah.
Joseph Kosinski this time.
Yeah, that's promising.
Yeah, it could be pretty cool. I mean, it can't be as... Well, I'm not saying it can't be as bad as the Michael Mann one, because the Michael Mann one wasn't that bad. It was just not very good. But yeah, he's got a sense of style. Could be pretty rad, I guess.
I feel like he's going to play it straight, isn't he?
Yes.
Like, I don't think he's a humor guy.
Yeah, I think he can have the right vibe.
As long as Jan Hammer's Crockett's theme plays at some point, the film can be what it wants, and I'll still give it 10 out of 10.
Well,
yeah, and it
Kosinski
100% has to be set in the 80s. If it's not set in the 80s, it can fuck off.
I think as well, he has used synth artists quite well before. In what's it called? Tron Legacy
Oblivion.
had Daft Punk, and then Oblivion had M83. So he has used synth well. So get Jan out of retirement. I don't even know whether Jan Hammer's dead or alive.
I hope he's alive. I hope he lives forever. I may check, and he is alive.
He is Czech as well.
Yeah. His hairline isn't dissimilar to Jeffrey Tambor's, is it? My God. The first Crockett's theme is above even the Miami Vice theme one. It's such a good piece of music. I got it on vinyl, obviously. I'm not stupid. All right, then which one of you jokers is next?
Yeah, where we go next? I can't remember.
It's Laszlo. Laszlo.
I think it's me. Shall I talk about Hellboy, the Crooked Man?
Oh, Christ. Please do.
I watched it, so no one else has to.
Oh, dear.
So, this is directed by Brian Taylor, who did that god-awful Ghost Rider sequel.
Oh, God.
He did... what's the one where Jason Statham keeps electrocuting himself to stay alive?
Oh,
Crank. Yes. And this is like I swear they made this to retain the rights to the Hellboy brand, because there's no other obvious reason to make this thing. It's so cheaply done, clearly filmed. And I looked this up. It genuinely is filmed in a Bulgarian forest with a cast of unknown actors, and there's no like crane shots or dolly shots or anything. It's so cheap. It feels like a YouTube fan-made Hellboy film with a nobody wearing a Hellboy costume. All that said, I kind of enjoyed it.
Oh.
It's like it's if you completely remove the other films from your mind and just go in, it's just going to be a low budget sort of kind of odd horror film. It doesn't. It's like it's not badly written for the most part. It bites off more than it can chew. It's like it's got so many ideas, it doesn't know which one to do, so it does all of them. In the first half an hour, you're probably introduced to about 6 different supernatural entities, all of which appear to be the villain, and you're like, just pick one. I don't know where I'm supposed to be. Who am I supposed to be nervous of? And it just keeps reeling off these anecdotes about this terrible, scary thing, and then you see another terrible, scary thing that's clearly not the thing they were talking about, and you go, well, is that it, or is this another? It's confusing, but it's not short of ideas. So I kind of enjoy it, and all of these ideas are kind of fun. There's like a bit where one of these many witchy people is her body. She's basically a raccoon, and they go into this woman's house to try and find her. And the guy they're with is like a former lover of hers, so he's quite invested. And they find her body. It's just like a deflated skin sack on the bed. And he's like distraught. But then this raccoon comes in through the window, climbs in her mouth, and then the body just kind of inflates and turns back into her, and she's alive. She just kind of, that's how she turns into other creatures and moves around. So it's quite disgustingly weird and kind of like, okay, that's kind of fun.
You're making me think that this kind of strikes the same nerve in me as like what I like about stuff like Constantine is the best example, where nothing's really clearly explained, but there's just lots of cool little bits. Like for instance, the closest example of that I could think of was when I recently watched that. What was that film starring like the bloke who looks like Dougray Scott? And it was like a sort of
really narrowed down.
Those films where it's like a simple plot, but then they keep on coming across different, and they feel like mini chapters where it's just cool things been introduced. It just feels like you're being exposed to this other world. I quite like that. So this is actually ticking my boxes a bit.
Yeah, and this is the one that's had the most creative input from the Hellboy comic writer. Apparently, this is the one he's put his name on. I think he was barking up the wrong tree with that gesture, but it does have that, like the instance they come along, you go, okay, this feels like an issue of a comic book where they have this thing to deal with in this chapter, and then it changes gears, and then they've got to go to another place and they have another encounter with someone else or whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
Solomon Kane is the film I was thinking.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was good. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Constantine and Solomon Kane are considerably better than this film. But it's not to say that there isn't stuff to enjoy in this film.
Is it better than the Neil Marshall one?
That's a tough one. I'd say no. It's probably still not better than that. I mean, that was bad, but at least it was a faint shadow of the Guillermo del Toro ones, whereas this is just a whole separate thing. This is like a cabin in the woods horror film with Hellboy dropped in.
It does from your description, it does sound like it's not a Hellboy film. Like,
yeah,
as in, it could just not be a Hellboy film, and it could just have some weird shit going on in the woods, and that might get the budget down.
There is a character in this called Tom that they meet early on, and he has a connection to this woman who's been sort of possessed by the crooked man, and he's the one with the investment in the story, and he clearly was probably like the main character in whatever the original story for this was before they dropped Hellboy in. He's the one with the stakes, he's the one with the character journey, and then Hellboy is just plonked in there and he occasionally saves the day, but he's like annoyingly inert quite often as well. Like he lets characters get into danger and then like intervenes at the last second, or sometimes just too late, and you're just like going, you're the muscle here, you're the supernatural front guy, why are you not taking the front line? Why are you letting that woman get horribly savaged by some supernatural entity? I don't know. Anyway, it gets more and more tedious as it goes along, but
like being in bed with me, really, apparently.
But all that said, it got absolutely destroyed in by the critics and things, and probably rightfully so, because it's such a steep drop off in quality from the previous films.
Well, but what critics know, imagine talking about films for a living. Jesus Christ,
losers.
But that also reflects the second Ghost Rider, because I remember watching the Ghost Rider films back to back, and the first one was clearly a Hollywood production that wasn't very good, and the sequel was very clearly a Bulgarian production that was even worse, and it just felt like he'd made it out of his pocket money, and it was so I guess this is the same sort of thing where it's like, oh look, we had all that money for the budget, I got a hole in my pocket, we've only got 15 quid left, so one of us needs to call Brian Taylor, and I've got a phone that's on pay to go and I've not got any credit.
He's still in Bulgaria finishing off his last film. Quick, get him while he's there.
Quick, get him. Tell him that they got on the bus back to America.
He's filming something with Steven Seagal.
Yeah.
But all this said, it's not a good film categorically. and yet if your expectations are set to zero, there is stuff to be enjoyed from the experience.
Such a backhanded compliment.
Expectations are zero. My God.
Yeah. That's
Well,
Hellboy,
Rupert,
the Crooked Man on Prime
and
now.
the thing is, the Crooked Man is that kind of terminology that if you can imagine if, like, your father said, "Now lie down, boy. I'm going to tell the story about the Crooked Man," and you think this is going to be terrifying because that sounds like something that what you conjure up in your mind is much worse than whatever anyone could show you in reality. So, the Crooked Man.
Yeah.
Rupert, it's time for you to pull your trousers up and do some talking.
Terrifier 3. I finally got around to watching this.
Oh, nice. Okay, I'm excited about this.
Which I paid for ages ago because I love the Terrifier movies. But it is on Paramount Plus, I think. It's a Christmas horror movie.
Hey!
And the heroine from Terrifier 2, Sienna, is trying to rebuild her life after surviving Art the Clown. Meanwhile, Art the Clown and his accomplice, Victoria, who I think was from the first movie. Anyway, she's disfigured and equally nasty. They're causing havoc in the local community. They're murdering teenagers and people in bars, including Clint Howard. And they will eventually make their way to Sienna and her family. And people will die. And I think this is good, but I think it's the weakest of the trilogy, maybe. But that's not saying much because I still like it. I think 125 minutes is too long for a slasher movie.
Well, I remember. Do you know what? I've been listening through to our previous episodes, and I'm actually up to episode 70. And I re-listened to the Terrifier 2 review, and you said it's great, but it's too long. Hopefully, the third one will be a little bit more taut. So I did wonder that.
Well, it is still 125 minutes is 13 minutes shorter than the second one. The second one really was a bit too long, but the first one was 85 minutes. Let's go back there, shall we? Let's settle on that, shall we? It doesn't help in this movie that the plot lines are basically separate until the last 20 minutes. Like everything that Art the Clown's doing is pretty separate from anything Sienna is going on in Sienna's life, because basically all the Sienna stuff is pretty much her hanging out with her family, and it's all very cheesy dialogue, and it just goes on and on. And it's sort of establishing this relationship between Sienna and a little cousin, Gabby, and which could be established in like one or two scenes, but we get endless scenes of them establishing their affection for each other, I guess, to up the stakes. And there's this whole subplot about this podcast girl who's obsessed with the survivors of Art the Clown, but that kind of goes nowhere, partly because she's disemboweled. And it ends with a very brazen and unsatisfying setup for part 4, which is a pity. But yeah, stylistically, it has the look of 80s horror down to a T. It has film grain, good. The setting, the music style, it's really well made. But it's sort of it's harkening back stylistically to 80s horror, but what it lacks, of course, is that swift pacing and that VHS efficiency. But I would say that the kills definitely don't disappoint, as we've come to expect. You get liquid nitrogen in this one. You can imagine that's lovely. And someone is fed live rats. That's a good one. And there's a literal chainsaw massacre in this as well, so that's good. And
were there any scenes that made you actually avert your eyes for a second, like I did in Terrifier 2?
I think the liquid nitrogen scene is a keeper. Definitely is a keeper.
Yeah. Did it make you put your corned beef sandwich down?
It did. Yeah. Weirdly. Yeah, I definitely paused before eating the rest of my spaghetti bolognese on that one. And again, Damien Leone does an amazing job of like pushing the envelope while balancing it with comedy, because it is completely disgusting, but it's not torture porn. It's more like basically a slapstick approach to horror, really.
I was going to say, does it still have that incredibly dark humor through it where you kind of think, oh my God.
I don't know how he does it. I'm really not sure how he does it. Like,
it's an incredible balancing act.
It's just unbelievable, because considering like it's the most I mean, it was unrated in America. But of course, cinema still showed it because it was a big success. But they just didn't give it like it was an unrated movie because it was so disgusting. But somehow,
when they say unrated, they should give it a W for whoops.
Whoopsie daisy.
Because you'd have to have at the start of the film. This film has been rated whoops.
Yeah, considering it's like the most disgusting violence you've ever seen, like for it not to come across as mean-spirited in itself, because obviously Art the Clown is very mean-spirited, and it's just the fact that he doesn't make sound and yet does this kind of silent laugh thing when people are in horrendous pain. I still think, these are the best modern slashers, but I do wish Damien Leone would exercise a bit of editorial discipline, maybe. But I'll clearly watch the next
I don't think I'm ever going to watch these because I can't stomach like ultra graphic violence.
Not for everyone.
Does he not speak at all in Art the Clown?
No, he doesn't make any sound, but he's extremely animated physically, and he has this habit of like pointing at people and like doing a laughing face without actually making a sound, which is incredibly creepy.
And is he like a demon? Like, is he invincible?
Yeah. There's clearly something supernatural going on. There's a touch of the Stephen King about him. I think the only time he makes a sound is in the second one where he's like slightly whimpers. And a woman like hugs him, and it's so buzzing because she's like there and she hugs him, and then it's almost like that Shining thing where he for a second his eyes flick towards the camera just before it cuts, and you know that the woman is dead. It's just it's the second one. Laszlo was like, I was watching it thinking, whew, this is not a breezy film. And the third one, I don't know if I'll be in the mood to watch it. I love them, but I have to be in such a specific mood for them. It's kind of like a hot sauce mood. You can't just have, sometimes I really fancy a meal slathered in incredibly hot sauce. I want that challenge, but I don't know about the third one.
I don't know. It's almost like the more grotesque it gets, almost like the less shocking it is.
The more desensitized you become.
Yeah, maybe.
How did it make you feel about a fourth one? Sorry.
I mean, it's
Are you thinking like, okay, I've seen 3 of these now?
I mean, they're all kind of similar. I mean, this one has the Christmas element to it, which gives it a nice sort of twist. He's dressed up like Santa most of the time. And it actually, the opening like sequence is quite a lengthy sequence where it's like pretty unrelated to the rest of the film, but it's him like murdering like a family, including kids and everything. And but it's really like, and you can hear him like walking around on the roof, and it's like really teasing you for ages. And then of course naturally the kid goes downstairs and he's dressed like Santa facing the fireplace with that weirdly hunched posture he's got. And you're just thinking, oh God, no!
This isn't going to end well. Yeah. It's almost, you're almost like laughing at what's going to happen, aren't you? It's. I suppose, they could, as long as the films are of a quality, regardless of people's tastes or not. Like that balancing act of horror and comedy is so specific and so well done that it's almost like exists in its own genre bubble in some respects.
Yes, I think the next one, given the ending of this one, could get a bit like trippy type kind of thing, because it's definitely entering another kind of realm type thing.
Does he go to space?
Not quite. It looks like another dimension, though. There is another dimension.
Do you know they're making a new Critters film, by the way?
Wow.
A new Critters film, and it's set. It's set on a plane.
Right.
So. Well, no, that was cool. I did enjoy that review. There's something about the Terrifier franchise that, like, even though I can't fully get on board with it, for the same reasons as Laszlo, I kind of really wish it well. Like, if Faye says, let's watch it, I'll watch it, but I'll never think, let's pop that on. Because, because the thing is, when a film ends, I look at Faye, give her a wink, and then point to my jorts so she knows what the next step of the evening is going to be. And I think after Terrifier 3, I don't think that trick would work. So
probably wouldn't be in the mood.
Yeah. Can I do a quick TMT?
Yeah.
I watched The Monster Squad, and this is a TMT because I've actually reviewed it before, but I just want to quickly cover it again. It's interesting covering films twice in the podcast when you watch things with a bit of a critical eye instead of just put them on the background as you just completely nailed Gin and Tonics looking up at the ceiling. Because when I first watched this, I was kind of taken by the fancifulness of it and the sense of fun. Watching it again, I realized it's like really aimless, and I think The Monster Squad is a film that, unless you're nostalgic or watching it for the first time, it's not a film that holds up to repeated viewings because what I loved about it the first time, the fact that it's a sort of quirky 80s Stand By Me, Goonies, more on that later, Goonies-ish take on the Universal classic monsters. The second time, you realize there's absolutely no depth to it, and the camaraderie between the children isn't enough to hold up to what is a really, really vapid plot. And I was watching it with Faye, and after about an hour and 50 minutes, she was sort of nodding off, and it was late, and I said, I don't need to watch this again, and I don't need to ever watch it again either, apart from maybe with my son. And, so it's a good film for a first watch, and if you've got nostalgia with it, but it's not one you really need to revisit. It's just sort of too silly.
I know what you mean, because you never really, like those 80s movies which are kind of rewatchable, time and time again because of their like fun and cleverness and their efficiency and their like the easiness. I don't know. Yeah, The Monster Squad. I never really feel like watching it. It's like it's cool to see the monsters outside of like
in that
the
situation,
40s sort of thing. But,
outside the 40s and outside of the sort of straight horror corridor. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, because it's quite interesting that it's like for younger people sort of thing, which is fine. But yeah, I know what you mean. It is really just an excuse to wheel out some Universal monsters in it, really.
Yeah. And can I another TMT, which leaves me with just two to go? Then is I watched the Goonies around a similar. I watched it just before, and this is a bit of a stranger with me because I've never seen the Goonies before at all. And I know a lot of people. I'm 41, so I know a lot of people from my era really hold it close to their hearts, and it means a lot to them. And I was sort of just went into it like I never watch a film expecting to hate it because otherwise I just wouldn't really put the film on. But I was just intrigued as to how I would, as a man in my 40s, the kind of reaction I'd have to it. And it was quite an interesting one, really, because much like when we talk about 2015's Cop Car starring Kevin Bacon, the thing I remember most from that film is the purity and the genuineness of the interaction between the two kids. That it had that really weird concoction of the fact that the kids were like talking over each other and doing that thing that groups of boys do, especially where someone will say a joke and it doesn't land and the other one kind of half ignores it and then talks over them, and it was just so well done that this is exactly what happens in the Goonies. That it feels like it must have been incredibly. It feels that they spent a lot of time together as a group, and it was incredibly well rehearsed because all of the lines are so tight and over each other, and each character's idiosyncrasies and characteristics. Instantly, like boom, this is this person, this is this person, and it's quite addictive to watch because it reminds you of the sort of responsibility-free freedom of childhood. And it was quite engaging in that. And obviously they've got the way they open the gate is through this complex setup of, when it's all quite fanciful. It's like, that's not what a kid would do, but it's, whatever. And then the way they find the map. But what tickled me about this is I've always assumed, again, I've never seen this film or read up on it really. I thought that they basically, it was a load of kids, they get together. There's whatever pretext, like in this, they need money because the house is going to be knocked down to make a freeway or whatever. And then they go on an adventure. That's what I thought, like an Indiana Jones the adventure. But bear with me, guys, and this is just my take on it. What actually happens in this film is they dick around in a house for half hour, and then they go for a bit of a bike ride and end up at a shitty closed down diner being shouted at by Robert Darby. And I thought this took a direction I didn't think it would, and it kind of amused me because that woman who was in throw mama from the train.
Yeah.
But in this film, she could be 30, she could be 70, I don't know. But it was just it was a really fun film to watch, especially because I know how dearly some hold it close. And it's not a bad film. It's just it's almost like the second half of the film where they go to that like shitty restaurant and they're like basically hiding and digging around underground in cellars in the dark. I thought it's almost like it's just like a separate film. So yeah, I kind of enjoyed it, but it's a very unique experience because I have no nostalgia for it at all.
You did watch the whole film, didn't you? Because there's quite a lot after the restaurant scene.
Is there? I may have turned it off and fallen asleep after like an hour or so because it's 2 hours long. I didn't watch the last bit of it because
quite
just like go through like the
significant
traps in caves and then finding a pirate ship and stuff.
Oh, I missed all that. Yeah.
It's quite a key element of the movie, I'd say.
Oh, I just thought, this is fun. Well, I'll turn it off. I'm not really bothered about this. But okay, maybe I'll watch the rest of it then if it does do that. After like an hour, I thought.
In my head, that's like the first. You've described the first half an hour, but maybe
I know what you mean, but actually, it does take a while for it to get to that point.
It must do because I did watch it for a while. I remember turning it off.
Probably at least an hour before, and it's really pretty much the last act, isn't it? Really, but really? I remember.
It's been a long time since.
Yeah, I mean it's paced like an 80s movie, so it's a bit different to these days. But I remember appreciating the fact that when they do go into the cave, and it's very much like another world type thing, and it's almost like they're in this magical kingdom, and yet there's a scene where, like deep in this cave, they find themselves in like this kind of chimney type structure, I guess, and they look up and it's just like a well. And they realize that, and there's other kids up there, and they realize they're actually just 20 feet below the town and actually not far from anything. And I thought that it's quite nice the way it captures childish imagination.
Yeah.
In the most kind of actually quite ordinary places.
Yeah. Yeah, it felt like the magical world of the film is just below the surface. Like as a kid, I remember, that sparking your imagination for like tunnels underground suddenly became fascinating because you just like never knew what you might find down there.
Yeah, like I said,
syringes, wouldn't you?
Well, that's the thing. It does for me. It did. I love the childish aspect of it. Childish in a good way, that sort of kiddie imagination, freedom sort of side of it. But yeah, I will watch the last bit. Then I thought it was just going to be that, and I was like, oh, okay, if it's like that, I'll just turn it off because.
Yeah. No, okay. my memories, like I loved all the stuff at the house with the like their own homemade gadgets and the way they open the gate and Data and his gadgets. And then my other lingering memory of it really is all the stuff that comes after what you've described, where they basically find a tunnel underneath the restaurant that leads them now to the caves, and there's booby traps, and booby traps suddenly became the coolest thing when you were a kid.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then of course then they find the pirate ship and things. Well, we won't go and spoil the ending for you, but
because I will go back and watch this then. I just, as like I said, I think I was watching the bedroom, and after like an hour I just sort of turned it off and thought, oh, okay, that's kind of cool, but not really for me. But if it does take a turn, that to be honest, if it did take a turn, it needed to at that point, because that was when I thought, this is
interesting because my nephew he's now just beginning his journey with watching films, and I nearly got him to watch The Goonies with me, and I'm kind of excited for when he's old enough or ready to watch it. But then I remembered all the swearing and the scary stuff, and I was like, oh, actually, no, I'm going to get in trouble if I show him this. So I held off, which is a good job, because my sister says you should not show him that film. He's not ready for it yet.
Oh, it's funny.
I looked forward to but now you're saying this, now I'm thinking he's going to be bored for the first like hour or something. I hadn't thought about the pacing of it.
With you saying that about he shouldn't have watched it, did I don't know if Utah Smith sent this to me or if I read it on the podcast, that he watched Back to the Future with his kids, or I think like around 10. Have this been mentioned on the podcast in the last couple of episodes? It was really interesting because he said, I'm really excited, I guess he run it past his wife and just said, "Yeah, you can watch Back to the Future." And I think it was. And they watched. I don't know if they watched the whole trilogy, but of course, his daughter was saying things like, "Oh, so she fancies him, but it's actually her son." And he's like, well, yeah. And they were apparently his kids were like fixated on the parts that you think would just pass them by, and they wouldn't.
You hope over their heads.
Just go above their heads now.
Yeah. So yeah, apparently it was just. He said, I thought it would be like a really fun family day, but it was actually like batting off the answers to a lot of very complex questions that they probably shouldn't have to deal with at their age. And I love all that. I said, well, yeah, I'm not gonna. But yeah, that really tickled me. So yeah, Utah, high five for that. So she fancies her son. Yeah, but look how fast the car's going.
I suppose, like, I don't know, like what kids watch nowadays, but the idea of a car that can travel back in time is probably not that novel anymore. I don't know. Like at the time, it was like, oh my god, what a brilliant idea. But now they're probably kids' cartoons have flying, time traveling, everything.
Well, I've got a 4-year-old, and I'll say I've only got 2 TMTs left because this is a catch-up episode. So I'll back to you, Laszlo. But I will talk about cars and time travel and stuff, and in my next film, and it can have an impact on a modern young audience.
Interesting. I guess we're running out of time. Maybe I should stick with going in reverse chronological order. So it's between Navy SEALs and The Crow, but I watched The Crow first. So this is The Crow, not that one or any of the other ones. This is the new one, which is directed by Rupert Sanders in 2024. So, have you guys watched the previous Crow films?
Yeah, I watched the Brandon Lee one.
I watched the Brandon Lee one, and I played The Crow City of Angels on the Sega Saturn, and after battling with the control scheme and the fixed cameras, I decided that was the end of the Crow franchise for me, unfortunately.
Well, this is the attempt at relaunching The Crow for a new generation, which they've been trying to get off the ground for years, and finally came out last year to unanimous destruction at the hands of critics and audiences. And it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, but it's not very good. And I was a big fan of the original film when I was a teenager, I guess. And I liked the gothic style of it, and I liked the kind of simple revenge story where you've got a gang of misfit criminals who are all quite unique in their own way, and then the splashes of kind of Hong Kong action violence. And Brandon Lee was not the greatest actor in the world, put a lot of heart into it, and it was kind of obviously his death kind of hung over the film, so gave it a kind of a real life tragic quality. And then I watched the second one at the cinema, City of Angels, which was such a drop off in quality from the first one that I kind of checked out from the franchise from there. Although I have seen one of the ones, I think it was the one with Edward Furlong in, which was absolutely awful. Generic, bland, in the shell, and the Kristen. I got bleeped out by something there. Can you hear me still?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry, my headphones are bleeping at me. Yeah, I'll wrap it up. No, so this is like a generic fucking action film, and then the first half they really like it. The Crow doesn't turn up till well over halfway through this thing. It's what's his name? Skarsgård. Bill Skarsgård, and somebody called FKA Twigs. Maybe she
sounds like a rapper.
Kids. I don't know who she was, and it establishes their relationship, and it goes on and on and on, and I get what they're trying to do is they're trying to make. In the original film, she basically died off screen at the beginning of the film, him and his girlfriend. In this, they wanted to be invested in them and care when they die. The problem is it's so badly written and done that you don't care, and then you've wasted an hour of your time watching these two assholes try and get together. And also, they get killed in part because they've given them some plot now, as so instead of it being a random, horrible kind of rape murder, she kind of causes it to happen. It's like through her own actions that they've kind of been targeted, and they've watered down the killing so much that they just kind of get quite a bloodless, sort of mild death scene, and it makes you question why the Crow felt that he needed to come back when there's so many other people out there who've suffered considerably more unpleasant and unjust deaths than them. But anyway, after an hour or so, the Crow finally turns up and brings him back to life, and he gets to take revenge on people. But unlike the original, there's no gang of memorable characters. It's just like a faceless goons. So he's just churning through people, and then they've got, what's his fucking name, is the bad guy, who's a bad guy in everything he's ever been in.
JT Walsh?
No, Danny Houston.
Oh, God, yeah.
And he just plays Danny Houston, the bad guy, again. So it's completely boring in that regard. But I will give it this much. Once he starts getting on board with the Crow needs to go and kill people idea, because even then he has a moral crisis about if he's doing the right thing, and he's like, just fucking kill people, this is what you're there for. There are some fun action sequences where he's just like in an opera house stabbing with a sword and shooting people, and he can get injured and he feels pain, so he's just getting really, really fucked up at the same time as just like limping on and slowly healing whilst he's hacking through. So it's kind of a Wolverine sort of joy to him doing that stuff. But you're not invested because there's no one to really dislike, and it's all very generic. So you could probably just watch the Opera House.
What is Bill Skarsgård like in it? Is he good?
He does his best. He's a good actor, but they've styled him like he just looks like a fucking state, where he's kind of half shaven, half not hair, and he's got tattoos all over his face, and it's like it looks like it's trying so hard to be edgy that it comes off kind of pathetic. So yeah, I wasn't bored, I guess, but it really is like a subpar film with a couple of fun action horror kind of sequences.
It's a shame this, because it sounds like the original. All I remember of the original really are, and I kind of remember enjoying it, but it's him like standing on the, in the rain, playing wailing guitar solos in the top of the abandoned church he lives in. It's really over the top. So I was kind of hoping this would be almost like a Solomon Kane thing, where maybe it would be the first step in a failed reboot, but kind of had its value. But this just sounds like it's really watered down and doesn't really please anyone. Yeah,
I mean, the violence is going to turn off some people. Like the people who are got something out of the romance element are going to be turned off by the violence, and the romance element is like not of interest to people like me who are there for like the fun revenge schlock. So it's a real film of two halves, and one half will not please 50% of the audience, the other half won't please the other 50% of the audience. So,
fair enough.
Yeah.
Before we move on, I know that this is the catch-up episode, and I know we normally stop at 11, but I'm just thinking, I got 2 left. How many of you got Rupert and Laszlo? Because can we pound through a few to catch up?
I did.
That sounded like you were talking under a pillow in a different room then, Rupert. Put the microphone in your mouth, Rupert. Oh, hopefully he's finally
dead.
Died. He's dead, thank God. Right then, Laszlo. Don't worry. I'll just.
He's been killed by Danny Houston, and he'll be back.
Danny Houston
soon.
Was actually in. He was the bad guy in a vampire film as well. 30 Days of Night. I still need to watch that.
Yes, He's playing the same character again in this. He literally has like a limited supernatural-y kind of demon-y thing, but it's just him wearing a suit. Yeah, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 films left, so that's probably pushing it. But I'm happy to leave some of this for another time.
Are these technical difficulties, Rupert? Have you gone now?
Yeah.
Okay, so Rupert's having technical difficulties because he sounds like he's in a barn facing the opposite way from his microphone. So, Laszlo, do you want to jump into your next one?
Okay. Shall I talk about Navy SEALs then?
Oh, thank God. Has it got Michael Biehn in it?
Oh, yeah.
I say that about every
Navy
film.
SEALs.
That's not just a guess.
Starring Biehn and Sheen.
Oh, the Wonder Duo.
As well as Paxton, which I didn't realize was in this. Dennis Haysbert, Slider from Top Gun. I don't know his real name. And Joanne Wally Kilmer. So this is quite a stacked cast for 1990.
Dennis Haysbert, does he have like a really clear speaking voice, or does he sound like he's got a load of beans in his mouth?
He may or may not sound like he's got some beans in his mouth.
I thought I'd just check that before we go into the review proper. Good.
What is odd is that Paxton is like he hardly says anything in this film, because he's kind of known for being that kind of
motor mouth sort of.
Yeah. But he's like he's called God in this. He's like the sniper.
Jesus Christ.
So he's like a silent kind of figure. But anyway, this was a lot of fun. I don't know why. I thought I'd seen this before, and then I stuck it on. I realized I hadn't. I think I just caught the end before or something. So this is like epic, cheesy, like early 90s action schlock with some really good stunts, some god awful dialogue, cheesy. It's trying to be. It's going to be Top Gun for the Navy SEALs, basically. So it's got that kind of thing where Sheen is like the sort of hot shot who doesn't play by the rules and has to learn to play by the rules, and then Biehn is like the stoic team leader who does play by the rules, who has to learn to let loose a little bit, and so on and so forth. There's some fucking bizarre action scenes in this, or stunts, where like early on, Charlie Sheen is on the back of a Jeep on a bridge, and he's got a hangover and he doesn't want to go to a teammate's wedding, so he jumps off the Jeep over on a bridge, a moving Jeep. He jumps off it over the edge of the bridge somehow, and then falls hundreds of feet into the river, and then he swims it and he turns up at the wedding anyway. It's just just needlessly risked his life and probably had to swim for half an hour to get to the shore to get back to the wedding anyway. But anyway, and then there's another scene where his car gets repossessed at a golf course, so then he chases it down on a pedal bike and climbs off the bike onto the back of the moving truck and unhooks it and wheels the car off the back of the moving truck, just because. Why not? I guess they didn't have any plot to lead the action at the point, so it's like, fuck it, we'll just have a pedal bike car chase for no reason. And there's an amazing golf sequence just before that where it's got Bon Jovi's cover version of The Boys Are Back in Town.
Oh my God.
Playing golf and like driving the carts into the river and all that sort of thing. It's quite amazing.
I quite like Thin Lizzy. I really wish I'd never heard that. I am going to talk about this in a second, but I just want to say that to listeners and to Rupert, I apologize. Rupert's microphone is completely given out, so he is listening. But I think Laszlo is just going to be me and you as we power on, and just apologize for the technical difficulties. So Rupert's going to have to catch up with his films next time. But carrying on with Navy SEALs, this is a film that I've never seen, and I don't know why, because it's right up my Strasse. And the clips I've seen of it, I thought it was a film where there was like the first part of it was a failed operation, and then there was the second part was them in a really sort of clinical way breaking down what went wrong. But it's just not like that, is it?
It's not. It is that. To a degree, like, so they do have a failed operation, well, an operation where they find some missiles and it's not what they're there for, so they leave them, and then it turns out those missiles are now out in the wild and presenting a global threat. So they have to kind of make up for their failings. But then there's definitely then they go and retrieve the missiles. And the last half an hour or so is a proper barnstorming men on a mission action sequence with armored vehicle car chase through this sort of rubble Beirut sort of town, and lots of hilarious moments, like a bit where they're escaping into the water, and then the guy with the missile launcher just fires a missile launcher at the sea. That's gonna do something. I don't know. What? It's so bizarre. But yeah, so there's it's got lots of action scenes, some of which have no stakes whatsoever, and then towards the end, they kind of pile it on. They start killing members of the team. So you're like, okay, this is ramped up. But there's no character journey. Charlie Sheen is the rule breaker, and by breaking rules, he gets a teammate killed. So you think okay, this is where he's going to go into a personal crisis and come out of it a better man. But then at the end, he just breaks the rules again, and then it wins the day. So he learns nothing. He's also a sex pest and a racist in this as well. So interesting character choices. Yeah.
Oh, Rupert, are you back?
Rupert.
Yeah, I am.
Well done.
I like Navy SEALs. That's all I've got to say about that.
Oh, thanks for joining back in for that goal.
Crucial input. It's directed by Lewis Teague, isn't it? He did Cujo, which is a good movie, and Alligator.
There we go.
I'm just having
3 for 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you know what? In one of I'll bring this up later actually. But he did Wedlock as well. Come on.
Now
Nothing wrong with Wedlock. Okay, well let's this is the catch up, so we'll power through. Navy SEALs sounds like an absolute winner. Rupert, do you want to jump on one?
Yeah, I was gonna pass the baton to you actually, because mine probably take a bit longer. Can't really 2-minute trash them, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. I tell you what then, I've got 2 I can power through.
Mm-hmm.
Laszlo, do you want to finish off with your backup one for that, and then we can do the Arkansas?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, I can. I know we're a little bit over, but I'll power through this. So I just want to say, I think this is a film we probably have covered on the podcast before, and it's in preparation for the upcoming sequel. We watched The Accountant, the 2016 film starring Ben Affleck, directed by Gavin O'Connor, and I just wanted to say that it's, for the most part, it's a functional but fun sort of action film with a bit of a twist. But what I wanted to say this time is what tickled me was knowing how the film sort of turns out is at the end with you've got John Lithgow kind of playing off the beaten track a little bit. John Lithgow, where he's owns this company and he's the sort of naughty one who set it all up. When he's hired John Bernthal to make sure that no one gets involved in his sort of machinations of tax evasion and siphoning off money and stuff. So John Bernthal's got his own team, and then Ben Affleck rocks up, who is Christian Wolff, and the accountant that is taking everyone down. And there's just a really funny scene where John Lithgow sees them finally meet after Ben Affleck has taken out most of John Bernthal's team, and they say they're brothers, and they just start bonding and hugging and crying and bonding. And then it just cuts to John, and he's literally going, what the fuck? He's looking at these cameras going, what the fuck are they doing? Why isn't he just shooting him? And that really amused me. And then he walks in to basically say to them face to face, what the fuck is going on? And he just gets shot dead. And it was a surprisingly funny scene. And when they made a sequel, I forgot that John Bernthal was in the first one. Obviously, since 2016, I've fallen in love with him because he was the Punisher.
I think I'd forgotten completely. I thought, they're just throwing in John Bernthal into the sequel. But
yeah. And I was like, oh, yeah, I remember now. So it's a perfect film to rewatch, because the problem with The Accountant, not the problem with The Accountant, is it was like a fun film, and then they've released a sequel, and you think, why? But then you watch the original, and you think, oh, it's actually quite fun. Yeah. So I'm actually really looking forward to the sequel now. So before I quickly move on to my final, which will be super quick, either of you got any comments about The Accountant? Are you going to watch the sequel? Do you fancy John Bernthal? Do you think that Ben Affleck has always had non-passable hair throughout his entire career, or what do you want to say?
I remember it being just quite average, really.
Yeah.
It's got the title. Sounds like it should be a Jason Statham film, doesn't it? Really.
Yeah.
Although he probably wouldn't ever play an accountant. It's a bit white collar, isn't it?
Yeah. I'd forgotten that Bernthal was in the first one as well. And then when the sequel's coming out and they're going, and he reprises his role as his brother, and I was like, okay. If you say, I thought it was a new introduction. I need to rewatch this because I think it's on Prime now, isn't it? So I'll give it another spin.
It's very slick and very fun. And I enjoyed it, I think, more the second around than the first. Because whereas the first time, I watched it thinking, oh, this is okay as an action film. Now that I know there's a sequel with someone I fancy in it, I'm thinking, oh, I could sneeze a bit. A sneezing fit for no reason. I'm thinking, the first one was actually really fun. And this sequel, nearly 10 years on, actually feels I'm just intrigued where it's going to go.
And it's good. It's been praised, isn't it? The second one.
Yeah,
It's actually
that's
getting good
really.
reviews.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm looking forward to that. The first one, by the way, I don't know if you remember, but she's in the film but doesn't need to be. And that is, who's the really petite actress? Her name is Anna Kendrick. I'm going to say this. She has got teeth in her mouth. And moving on from that, it leads me to Herbie Fully Loaded.
Just before we move on as well,
Yep.
Ben Affleck's got teeth in his mouth that are quite different to the teeth he had in his mouth in Good Will Hunting.
Really?
And Mallrats as well,
To
yes.
revisit that film.
He had these really weird adult baby teeth where there were like a lot of gaps, and then now
Yeah.
he's suddenly got some pearly whites, So I think he went to visit Corbin Burnson in the late 90s. I don't know if there's a bit of too much of a deep cut for everyone out there. So the Dentist series of horror films starring Corbin Burnson. Anyway, I watched Herbie Fully Loaded starring Lindsay Lohan. If you do me a favor and go on Herbie Fully Loaded on Wikipedia, though,
Sure.
can you both do that for me? And then if you just look at the image for Herbie Fully Loaded on Wikipedia and tell me if that is Lindsay Lohan or if it's someone else with hair drawn on in paint.
Does appear to be, doesn't it?
That's not Lindsay Lohan. This was a bit of a surprise to me because my son is banging into cars, and I put this on thinking, I knew of Herbie. I knew it was like a Volkswagen Beetle that they call a bug in the films, apparently, and it is sort of anthropomorphized. And I expected the worst, quite frankly. I kind of thought, this is probably going to be more for him than me. But it's actually quite a funny slapstick comedy based on, it ties into the whole mythology of the Herbie films, of which I am not a part. I've never seen any of them. But it is really funny how he kind of results whenever people say, this card just looks like, like a piece of crap. And he'll kind of, the lights will furrow on the eyebrow and he'll kind of, and through squeaks, and then he'll squirt oil at them or something. There's a really funny sequence where Matt Dillon is like the baddie, and he's trying to find out the secret of why he can go so fast, because he's clearly just a supernatural entity. And Herbie just completely foils him by just like kicking him in the face and just like slamming his head in the boot. And it's quite well done. And what I thought would be just a completely passable, like silly kiddie film that just doesn't work is actually quite good-natured and good fun. And it's got Justin Long in it, is always reliable. And a man in it, Michael Keaton's in this as well, don't you worry. A man in this film is someone that I completely forgot, as did Hollywood.
Breckenmeyer?
It's Bracken fucking Meyer from Rat Race. Even he must look at his CV when he goes to get a job and say, what did you do from 2004 till now? And he must say, I don't know, I made a bit of this, bit of that, mowed the odd lawn, took my nan's dog for a walk, fed my sister's hamster. Not jobs, just favours, Bracken Meyer. What else have you done? So
Lots of Garfield films. That's about it.
Oh, really? He took over from Bill Murray, did he? But it's a surprisingly fun film, and I'd watch it again tomorrow. Like, it was fine. Lindsay Lohan is pretty
successful movie as
really?
well. Yeah,
there was nothing else after it.
Well, it made its budget 50 million, made 144 million, so that's enough.
Fair play. It's a good. I don't know what was the critical reviews like, because I was watching it thinking, It was fine. It was quite funny. Lindsay
I'm old
Lohan.
enough to have enjoyed the original Herbie films.
I know.
was a
Well,
kid.
this apparently the previous Herbie film before that was 1980, so it's 25 years.
Jesus.
Yeah.
It's good fun. I did find this is the first time this has happened in my life. Genuinely, I was watching Lindsay Lohan and I thought she's very, very pretty, and then I caught myself and thought, "Hang on, am I allowed to fancy her?" And it turns out she was 19, and I thought, "Oh, I'm at that age now where I'm like second guessing whether I can fancy women." But I never second guess if I can fancy men. So. So yes, it's a bit of a surprise. I enjoyed Herbie Fully Loaded. Laszlo, do you want to squeeze in a final one, or should we do the Arkenstar?
I was going to talk about Venom: The Last Dance, but I'd probably go on too long about that one.
Please.
I'll save that. I've saved the Minecraft movie as well because I feel like.
Oh yeah, these are biggie. You got too many biggies.
I've got Twisters. Twisters.
Okay.
I can throw this one away.
Yeah, well, Rupert's covered this before, so this could be a TMT. Absolutely.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, a completely felt like a soft remake.
Yep.
Kind of boring. I feel like
A little bit.
there's nothing left to be said about tornadoes. Like, but what else can they do that we haven't seen already?
Yeah, because the first one, and especially as it's set in the same place, effectively. So
Yeah,
it's like they can't. There's nothing. Yeah, the first one went all out, throwing like trucks around and stuff like that, and it's like, okay, there's not much else you can really do in this particular setting with Twisters. So yeah, I thought, what's his name?
Glenn Powell.
Glenn Powell. Yeah, I mean he's charismatic, and the woman was charismatic too.
Yeah, the cast are doing a lot of the heavy lifting here. It wasn't even like badly written. It's basically a remake, but without any of the novelty. And also, it didn't even it's obviously actually a sequel because they've got the device that they created at the end of the original one at the beginning of this.
Yeah.
And then he teased, I mentioned her mum and how she doesn't keep in touch with her mum. And you go, okay, her mum's going to be Helen Hunt, obviously. And then when they go there, it isn't. And you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Clearly they wanted Helen Hunt and she said no or something. But anyway, I got kind of bored. And I
think I remember, I remember getting bored as well. And I think the reason for me was that in the first one, it's about him being a bit boring and then becoming more interesting as the film goes on. Whereas in the sequel, he's fun and interesting at the start and becomes more boring. So it's like the whole trajectory just doesn't work quite as well.
She's kind of the main character in this one.
Yes, she is.
They kind of slightly invert things where she's working for the corporate guys in this one and then goes over to the sort of hippie sort of storm chasers or whatever. Whereas in the original, we were with the hippie ones and the corporate guys were just bad guys. Anyway, these are very superficial tweaks to what is basically the same film.
Yeah.
Trashed. Done.
Well, that leads us very nicely to the Arkenstar, which was Deborah Kara Unger to Val Kilmer. By the way, everyone, thank you for listening. And also the next episode is going to be, some more movie reviews, obviously, but we're going to talk about the life and movies of Val Kilmer, which is something I'm looking forward to doing because he was in some really good films, quite frankly, and left quite the mark. So Deborah Kara Unger to Val Kilmer. I've got a few responses. Do you want to do yours first?
I'm happy to do my two-stepper.
Oh, someone's got his big boy trousers on.
The same two-steppers?
Yeah, it may well be.
A few other people.
Val Kilmer is in The Ghost in the Darkness with Michael Douglas, who's in The Game with Deborah Kara Unger.
Oh, that's a beautiful one. Okay. Laszlo?
Val Kilmer was in The Ghost in the Darkness with Michael Douglas, who was in The Game with Deborah Kara Unger.
Do you know, I would never guess that you two were husband and wife. That's astonishing. Max Hilarity comes in and says that Deborah Kara Unger starred with Sean Penn in The Game. He's in Carlito's Way with Pacino, who's in Heat with Val Kilmer.
Nice.
Yeah, so there's an extra little twist there.
Yeah. Good movies.
Dave Chod said Deborah Kara Unger was in The Hurricane with Denzel Washington, who was in Deja Vu with Val Kilmer. A bit of a lesser known film there. And I've got this from Utah Smith. He who doth not text, but only speaks, which is actually his full name. So here we go.
Val Kilmer is in Tombstone with Sam Elliott, who is in The Big Lebowski with John Goodman, who is in One Night at McCall's with Michael Douglas, who is in The Game with what's her face? I think Michael Douglas is in One Night at McCall's anyway. It's such a random film to throw in there. I just remember it being really good. What's his name? Matt Dillon and Liv Tyler, I think. It's a good film.
He is right. That was a bit of a lackadaisical message. But One Night at McCall's is a film I need to revisit because I haven't seen it since my teens. And Michael Douglas is in there as like a bingo player, really bizarrely. It's got John Goodman and stuff. So I do need to watch One Night at McCall's. It's based around a bar. So I believe that you two and Dave Chod are joint winners with
Can I just let us know that we are actually all losers because as Max flagged up and I realized afterwards Val Kilmer is in The Salton Sea with Deborah Kara Unger. So there is a no-stepper out there, and I have that fucking film on DVD, so I really should have known that. But there we go.
Yeah. Did you look at it afterwards and think or did you was there nothing?
It's in my loft. No, I didn't look at it.
So I'm just trying to think if I've covered everything. Oh, yeah, by the way, this episode is going to end with Max Hilarity doing a guest review of the movie Flow. I do apologize. It's been such a hectic thing. We're just powering through loads of catch-up stuff. So thank you to Max for his review of Flow, which will be at the end of the podcast. And if you do want to send us a message or just call Rupert a prick or whatever, it's the men who talk at outlook.com. Before we go to Max Hilarity's Gag Corner, what is the next Arkansas, guys?
Yeah.
How about Lindsay Lohan? Oh, by the way, did we cover Ninja 3 Blowback and Showdown Little Tokyo in the last podcast?
No, we did not. I have got notes on them, so I can cover them.
Okay. Next time. Next time. So I'm going to say Lindsay Lohan 2. What have you both got? What's dancing around your bellies?
I was going to say Michael Bean.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
Lohan to Michael Bean. Wow.
And that's it. So, guys, it's been a bit of an extended episode. We did have some technical difficulties at the start with Rupert towards the end. Just want to say this will be the last one recorded on Skype. We've got to find a new way to do it. So if you want to contact us, it's the men who talk at outlook.com. And I will end the podcast. After this, the listeners will hear Max Hilarity's review of Flow. But before that, they will hear his gag corner for this episode. At the Rocky premiere, journalists asked Stallone why there was a picture of a Swiss mountain on his neckwear. That's simple, Sylvester said. It's my tie of the Eiger. Words can sometimes lead us on a merry dance, can't they, gentlemen? They can conjure up so many emotions or a kaleidoscope feelings. And in this case, they've conjured up something, haven't they? They've conjured up something, and that something
sadness and disappointment.
Tumbleweed. Yeah.
I love those hamsters.
Hi there, Britt and the KK gang. This is Max Hilarity here. I'm not here to bring you a pun. as much as that might disappoint you. I'm here to talk about a film called Flow. It's an Oscar-winning film from the 2025 Oscars. Only came out last year, 2024. It is a Latvian animated film. And I was only made aware of it when it won an award, and I imagine there are a lot of people in the same boat. It's about 90 minutes long, which is ideal. I know you like a good short film. It's a film without any dialogue at all, just background music and some sound effects, I guess, and that's about it. So, which is always a bit of a challenge, but it's a challenge that Flow rises to admirably. It's the plot, what there is of it, because it's fairly basic, is you are following a cat, what looks like a normal domestic black grey cat, and it becomes clear early on in the film that the water levels are rising. There's no sign of why this is. You expect maybe it's going to be a tsunami or something, but it doesn't seem to be that. It just seems to be a steady rise. So this cat seeks higher ground and watches as other animals in the forest nearby are escaping this rising water. And essentially this is the story of a cat trying to survive. And over the course of this story, it finds, I say animal friends, it finds other animals that are trying to escape the flood, and it bands together with, including a dog or several dogs, a capybara, some kind of, I want to say a monkey, but I think it might be a lemur, and a couple of birds. And they find a boat. And it's just really, really charming. As I say, obviously the animals don't speak, but they interact. And one of the most wonderful things about it is the movement of the animals. So anyone who's ever owned a cat or a dog will immediately recognise the cat's movements, and the dog that's in it. The dog's moves are just absolutely spot on, and the interactions, meowing at each other and growling, all that other stuff. It's brilliant. It really is very good. And the way the story is told with, just these kind of very basic interactions, it's really quite incredible. It's not going to be for everyone. There are no explosions larger than a shed. That's good. I know that's something you look for, Brett. But there is action and adventure. There's lots of peril where, the boat nearly sinks or turns over and all sorts of things like that. But what I like about it is it's kind of, you sense there's a bigger story, because this film never explains what's happening with the rising waters. You're just focused on what these animals are going to do, what they'll do to survive, and the unlikely alliances that are made when that happens. So yeah, I definitely seek it out. You need to be, put aside 90 minutes and have no distractions from it, because it's a quiet film. But it's really, really beautiful and well worth watching. So yeah, Flow. Highly recommend it. Go watch it. I'm not sure what channel it's on. Unfortunately, I'm not sure where I found it now, actually. I'll have to look it up. Anyway, bye for now.